Hi, fifth graders. Mrs. Oliver here. I'm going to be doing 3 videos this week that all have to do with your TDA. We are doing a benchmark TDA this week, which means that you're not getting as much help and support from your teachers. We really want to see what you can do independently with your writing. This will be scored and go in your writing folder, but this benchmark at the beginning of the year is basically just a measurement so we can see how much you grow throughout the entire year. So we'll do another benchmark at the end of the year, and we want to show how much you've improved and how much better you have gotten as a writer. This also helps your teachers know what you still need help with and what we need to support you with more. So I want you to try your best, but we understand that it will be a little bit challenging, so we have some videos to help you along the way. Your story is The Poppy Lady this week, and it is nonfiction. It's going to be telling you about a woman who kind of started with a small act of kindness with the soldiers during World War I, and it grew into something much, much bigger. Before you read, we like to deconstruct the prompt first, and the reason we do that is we kind of want to change your mindset so that you are listening for some evidence the first time you read through the text. Kind of saves you time later as well if you know what you are looking for. So the prompt I'm looking at is, in the text, The Poppy Lady, Moina Bell Michael takes action when she wants to show the soldiers support during World War I. Write an essay analyzing how Moina's actions support the central idea, a small act can lead to a bigger change. Use text evidence to support your response. So the first sentence in our prompt has the title of our passage, and then it also has a little bit of a summary. The second sentence is where we really want to pay attention and look at. It says, write an essay analyzing how Moina's actions support the central idea, a small act can lead to a bigger change. In here is where we're going to have our 2 elements. I already told you that the text is informational, so we're going to be looking at the right box for our elements to match up. This is a little bit tricky because sometimes the PSSAs will use the word theme, sometimes they use the word central idea, and sometimes they use the word main idea. They basically all mean the same thing. It means what is the main idea, what is the main topic that you are reading about. So since this is informational, I see central idea, but I know that I am looking for where did my circle go? I'm looking for main idea. And then it says Moina's actions, so I'm talking about the character in the story. So I think this one where it's talking about individuals. So as I'm reading along, I want to be looking for evidence or proof that Moina had a small action that led to a bigger change. So I want some examples of how she did that throughout the text. It's also pretty good practice to focus on picking your evidence in different places throughout the text. So we don't want everything to happen at the beginning of the text or everything to just come from the end. So as you're reading along, you might want to think about your elements as you're reading the entire text instead of waiting until the end to go back for your evidence. Okay, what I'm going to do next is read the story to you. You'll find this on slides 2 and 3 and 4. You're welcome to pause the video if you would like to read it on your own. If not, I will read aloud to you and you can follow along. The Poppy Lady. Moina Bell Michael was an American teacher who was known widely as the Poppy Lady. In this informational text, Elizabeth Walsh discusses how Moina got her famous nickname. As you read, take notes on why Moina felt motivated to wear red poppies. And now the torch and poppy red we wear in honor of our dead. Fear not that ye have died for naught, will teach the lesson that ye wrought in Flanders fields. And this is a poem by Moina Bell Michael. One afternoon in November 1918, Moina Bell Michael hurried through the streets of New York. She wore a bright red silk poppy on her coat collar and carried a bouquet of 24 smaller poppies. World War I was raging overseas, and Moina was determined to do her part. Maybe the red flower would remind people of the American soldiers fighting in Europe and the sacrifices many had made. Moina was a teacher at the University of Georgia when the war first broke out. Friends, neighbors, and students had gone overseas to fight. Moina planned to do more than knit socks or sweaters or roll bandages for the Red Cross. She wanted to encourage the soldiers before they left for war. Volunteering for the war. Moina traveled to New York City to care for soldiers at the YMCA headquarters at Columbia University. There was nothing she enjoyed more than sitting and chatting with the soldiers. She looked at photographs of their families and sweethearts and listened to their hometown news. She bought fresh flowers to brighten the room when the weather outside turned dreary. Earlier that November morning, one of the soldiers had left a copy of the Ladies' Home Journal on Moina's desk. She turned to the marked page of the magazine and found a well-known poem, which began, "In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row and row." Moina had read that poem before, and she knew that Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, a Canadian physician, wrote it while treating soldiers on the battlefields of Flanders in Belgium. Remembering the soldiers. Lieutenant Colonel McCrae's poem, Remembering Those Men, always touched her, but that morning Moina was struck by the last verse, an accompanying illustration. Soldiers with sad eyes stared at a battleground blanketed in white crosses and red poppies. The soldiers seemed to speak to her. "Remember us," they asked. Moina thought about her soldiers at the Y and how they had left their families and homes to protect the freedom she enjoyed each day. To Moina, they were heroes. Silently she made a promise. She would always wear a red poppy to remember the soldiers, and she wrote her promise in a poem. Just then, 3 YMCA workers stopped by her desk with a check for $10. They thanked her for all she had done to brighten the room. There was no doubt about what Moina would do with the money. "I shall buy red poppies," she told them, creating a symbol. Moina showed them to Lieutenant Colonel McCrae's poem and her poem, and word spread quickly. Before long, everyone wanted to wear a red poppy. It wasn't easy finding silk poppies on the streets of New York, but Moina was successful. Hurrying back to the Y, she handed them out, and she dreamed of a day where every American would wear a poppy to remember the soldiers. 2 days later, World War I ended, and Moina returned to her students in Georgia. True to her promise, she wrote letters to leaders around the country, suggesting they adopt the poppy as a national memorial symbol. But as she taught returning servicemen, Moina soon realized another purpose for the small flower. Many of the servicemen had no jobs, no money. They were wounded or too ill to work. Maybe the poppy could also help the veterans and their families. Her hard work paid off. In 1921, the American Legion Auxiliary adopted the poppy of Flanders Field as its memorial flower. Other national and international veterans organizations followed. Disabled veterans, who were members of the patriotic groups, made crepe paper poppies, offering them for donations. Pennies, nickels, and dimes poured in. During the years that followed, the poppies raised millions of dollars in the United States and England to benefit veterans, war widows, and orphans. and the flowers reminded people of the soldiers everywhere. To Moina's delight, the message of the poppies spread to 50 other countries. At last, her dream of helping soldiers was coming true. For the rest of her life, Moina Bell Michael was known as the Poppy Lady. She received citations, awards, and words of praise from around the world, but the Georgia schoolteacher did not feel like a hero. What I did, and am doing, is no more than any other person would have done, Moina insisted. I only thought of it first.